Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Ah. Welcome back guys to everyone who has subscribed and to the newbies. Welcome. Please do like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any posts or any new videos that I post. I know I've been MIA and this is not what I had planned. Obviously, I came here on my first video and I was like, you know what, this girl is going to be consistent. This girl is not going to procrastinate on anything. But guys, I fell ill. Unfortunately, me and my cubs fell ill and I had to take a break, you know. I know I had said that I'm not going to do a lot of sit down videos, but obviously I had to come here and share a trigger, with motherhood comes a lot of challenges, right? So since this YouTube channel is based mainly on motherhood, I was like, no, I got to share this. Maybe a lot of people were like me and were in the dark with this situation. So it's all about information. I'm going to give you guys information. Sorry, my hair. I will be talking today about hernia. When I say I had a trigger this past week is because, um, because my son was sick and I was sick. Obviously, there are certain things that I can do and cannot do to remedy the situation, right? So this took me back to a couple of years when my son was diagnosed with hernia. And I had no idea what hernia is at the time. So I want to share triggers that I have experienced in the past years, because I feel like there are a lot of people who are very clueless about what hernia is, especially here in South Africa, because when I did my research, I got to find out that in Lesotho, um, new mothers or expectant mothers are taught about hernia and stuff like that, whereas we are not taught about those things here. You simply just attend antenatal classes and that's basically it. They just check your well-being, the well-being of the baby, and yeah, So if your son is not born with a condition or the condition doesn't occur in his life, then you do not know what hernia is. It's something foreign to you. So it was something foreign to me because obviously I had only had girl children, I had only had girls before my son. So now what had happened was, here's the information. What had happened was when my son was a month old, I decided, okay, let me take him to meet my grandmother, So I was bringing my son home to meet my grandmother, especially because my grandmother was ill. I was also coming to see her, So I came, and when we were driving on our way here, when I was driving, my little sister was the one carrying the baby at the back, and he was just crying hysterically, and I was like, okay, maybe when we get to the destination and I park the car and he's now with me, he's gonna come down or something. She tried to change his diaper, she tried to feed him, and he just wouldn't settle. So eventually, when we got to my grandmother's house, um, which is the house I'm currently in right now, I took him and he still wouldn't stop crying. So when we got into the house, there were women from my grandmother's church, who came to help her because obviously she wasn't well. So we got inside, and one of the ladies was like, did you whisper in the child's ear to tell him that you're coming to see grandma? And because it was not, or it is not my belief, I just said yes to her, just to get her to settle, to come down. So I was like, yes, I did. And and knowing fully well that I didn't. And to me, it was not a problem because I knew for sure that, I mean, I've brought my children home before and none of them had this type of issue where they would cry hysterically or anything like that. So I got in and then I went into my grandma's room and she was like, "No, my darling, you better leave. You better leave. You will bring him back at a later stage. Maybe he's being affected by the fact that I'm sick, whatever. So just go and you will come back at a different time, when I'm well or something." So obviously I was heartbroken because that's not what I expected. You know how it is when you take your child home. Grandmother will carry the baby, speak to the baby, bless the baby, and stuff like that. So I just drove back. I lived in Pretoria West at the time. I drove back to Pretoria West, and when I got home, I decided, okay, let me try to bathe him. Maybe he's just, let me just try to bathe him. I undressed my son, and behold, to my surprise, he had this bulge on his abdominal area, his groin area. So I then called my mom. My mom was like, "Yo, I don't know what this is." Yeah, my mom had visited at the time. We were with her. She was helping me with the baby and all because I had fallen sick prior to having my son. So I called my mother and I'm like, "I don't know what this is." And she's like, "I also do not know what this is." So then I call my then husband and I'm like, "Yo, this is what's happening with the baby. Can we take him to the hospital?" He then says to me, "No, you take him to the hospital. If ever my attention is needed or required, I will follow." I then drive to the hospital with my little sister again. We get to the hospital and the doctor on duty addresses my son and, checks what the problem is. And she is clueless. She does not know what the problem is. She has never seen anything like that, which now is concerning for me as a parent also because I mean you're a doctor. You should know. You should know what's wrong with my baby. So then we waited, and as we waited, they were like, "No, we're going to try and call another hospital and find out there's a certain doctor there who specializes in pediatrics. So we're going to call him and find out. Maybe he's gonna know what the problem is. Maybe he has an idea." They call that hospital, and fortunately enough, the doctor was there. And then he goes ahead to tell us that no, it's a hernia. A hernia is when an intestine escapes through an opening, or you know what, guys, it was just a lot. So basically, what had happened is there was an opening which occurs a lot in boy children, an opening on his abdominal area, which an intestine escaped through to go down to his groin area. I know, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. An intestine escaped through an opening on his abdominal area into his groin area. So hence the bulging. So it looked swollen. If you don't know what hernia is and a bulging is, it basically just looks swollen. So then he says to the doctor on duty at the hospital I was at, all you need to do is put a pillow under him, under the baby, and just touch that swelling, because it's literally it's an intestine, and once you touch an intestine, it just moves back into to where it's from. So he's like, just touch it a little bit, not so much, just a little bit, and then it's gonna go back. And the doctor tries to touch it and it doesn't go back. And now she's, because she's so frustrated, she's putting more pressure, and my baby's crying. Like, my son was screaming. He wouldn't even feed. He was screaming, right? Anyway, they then decide to move me to a different hospital now, because this doctor is now failing to push the thing back. And then because I had driven to the hospital and I couldn't drive my car to the next hospital that I'm being transferred to, my sister, who had a driver's license, couldn't drive my car because she only went to learn how to drive so she can drive an automatic car, and my car is manual. So I had to call my then husband and be like, we're being moved, so you have to come and get the car because obviously my little sister can't drive this car. I then give her money for transport. She takes a taxi. And she couldn't wait for him because, we didn't know when he was going to come. Anything is possible. So she then takes a taxi home. I'm then transferred in an ambulance with my son to a whole different hospital. It was a lot, guys. It was a lot because now they're telling me to say, no, we're going to have to operate on your son to repair that hernia. And now I'm freaking out because what do you mean operate? What do you mean surgery? I've never been in for surgery before. Why is this not happening with my son? I was freaked out, guys. And then we're moved to the hospital. We get to the hospital and we're told that we have to wait and I have to put my son on a fast. Already he's hardly taking any milk. Like he's hardly eating. And I have to fast him again just so he can go for surgery. I freaked out. But obviously, when push comes to shove, you do what needs to be done. So I then began the fast for my son, and that basically meant I can fast and pray also in the meantime. So that's what I did. I started praying, and I kept on updating my mother and updating my husband. And it's funny how my aunt's son had the same condition. And during that time, my mother was there. She was present. She saw everything, but she couldn't remember. So when she was calling her family and telling them that I'm in hospital with a baby, she told them my son's stomach turned. Like, make me understand. She told them my son's stomach turned. Anyway, that's a story for another day. We then fast and I'm praying and I tell my mom to be praying also. I tell my then husband to be praying also. And, we wait. And as we're waiting, there's this child that's brought in. She had been bitten by a pit bull. If I say trauma, that child had been bitten by a pit bull and she was put in the ward that I was in with my son, and she was put directly next to us. It was terrible. But it was nice, having other people in there with us, and we all had the same mission. Our mission was to pray our children out of the conditions they were in, to pray our children to healing, and then there was also another lady who was from my home village, from Bushbuckridge. I'm from Bushbuckridge, and we speak Sipulani, and it was we were just talking like she was giving me updates, man. She was giving me updates because I hadn't been to Bushbuckridge in a very long time, so she was just it was nice. But then the stress of it all. But I remembered, I don't know if you guys remember from my previous video, I had said that God carried me. It's amazing how God has carried me because God literally carried me, especially from the time my son was born. There are so many things that I escaped because of the grace of God. Like, I cannot emphasize on the grace of God enough. God's grace has literally carried me. Jehovah. Yo, guys, listen, it's a lot. And I think as time goes by, obviously, you will understand why I always bring up the grace of God. Because He has really, really, really carried me. So, because now there was this child whose condition was an emergency, I had my child's surgery had to be moved up. So we had to continue waiting. And my son is already fasting, remember. So that is more frustrations for me as a mother because My kid is crying. My child is crying, and they don't allow pacifiers in government hospitals. I don't know if you know that. They don't allow pacifiers in government hospitals. So the nurses had created a dummy paci for him. Like they took the gloves, the surgical gloves, washed them, and created a little balloon on the fingers, and that's how I was like using that as a pacifier. But listen, baby boy was in pain. Baby boy was in pain. We waited. That child was taken to surgery, the one who was bitten by a pit bull. And later on, when we were now supposed to be next, apparently there was another emergency. The doctor, the surgeon was still busy. So then now my husband is also frustrated and is telling me to tell them to discharge us. We're going to take my son for prayers and I tell them all of that, and they're like, yeah, we can allow that, but you're going to have to wait for the surgeon to come and sign you out and whatever. And mind you, in the meantime, when all of that is happening, time is ticking, guys. My child is hungry. My child is in pain. And then the grace of God appears once again. God moves that doctor that explained the condition to us from his hospital to the hospital that I was in. He was moved there for some emergency that required his attention. But he was like, before I go to that, there is a little boy, a baby boy, whom I sent here earlier because the previous hospital couldn't help. And can I see him? Hey, guys, I was like, Jesus, you're great. Hey, that doctor came. And you know, because obviously when they're doing things, they will not do it in front of every other patient. They took us to the triage room, and the doctor was like, oh, shame, poor little baby. Oh, you know how doctors are with babies. And then he takes a pillow, puts it underneath my son, and pushes the thing, and the thing goes back. And I'm like this was literally 2 hours from the time my son was supposed to go for surgery. I'm like, there is absolutely no way I'm allowing this boy to go back. I'm not allowing him to go for surgery. Now I had this thing that God has done it for me. God has healed my son. There is no way I am taking him for surgery again. He's not going. This thing has left, and it has left for good. Because the doctor had explained also to say it can reoccur. They will go and repair it. It will not reoccur if they repair it, if it goes through surgery. But if it doesn't go through surgery and they just push it back, it can reoccur. So, but I had to make a conscious decision to say, God has done it for me. I am not going to doubt it. I'm not going to doubt him. I'm not going to doubt his healing power. We are going home. I call my husband and I tell him to say, no, they've managed, the doctor came, the doctor who was well informed with this condition, he came and he managed to push the thing back. So I think this is a go. We're definitely not continuing with surgery. We're definitely going home. We're getting discharged. I'm just going to wait for the forms, sign him out and all. Can you please come? He then comes, and we wait together for the doctor that's supposed to now release us and read us the conditions of self-discharging. Excuse me. She comes and she tells us, this does not mean that you're not allowed to come back in case you feel that you want to take the treatment or you want to continue with the surgery. You're allowed to come back, but this is to say that you're signing out. It is your decision. Treatment was offered. It is you that declined it. And yeah, just to, make it clear that it is not the hospital's fault if or when something happens out of hospital. And my husband and I then signed those forms, and we were released, and finally, because my baby was no more in pain, I was feeding him. And obviously, I continued praying over my son. I continued praying over my son that the healing is permanent. The healing is permanent. And really, guys, the healing was permanent. The healing is permanent for my son, because to this day, um, it has never reoccurred. So the triggers now are that, for fevers, to break fevers, if you're not using syrup, like Panadol syrup or Calpol syrup, especially when their bodies are now prone to it, it really doesn't help so much. So I had decided to go for suppositories. So when I'd use suppositories with my daughters, and it would help. It would, listen, it would literally help in a couple of seconds, and life would be back to normal. So this past week, when I was sick and all, that's when I realized to say, but my son has got this thing that had happened to him. I can't just put things up his bum anymore. And especially because in my journey as a mother, I've come to learn that boy children are very different from girls. We grew up being, oh my God, what is that word? I forgot the word, but anyway, I'm gonna put it somewhere up here or here, just for clearance. Barbeta, basically. Girls, it was just a thing. They would Barbeta, guys. So we grew up with that, and for me to discover that boy children, it's not a go-to area. Their bum is not a go-to area. It's very risky. It's very dangerous. So it was a trigger for me, and I was like, oh no, I have to share this with other mothers. I definitely have to share this with other mothers, because I'm sure I'm not the only one who didn't know what a hernia is. A hernia is when an intestine, I think an intestine goes through an opening that is between the stomach and the abdominal area, and it causes a bulging. And in that case, because an intestine has got things going through it and passing through it, obviously it causes pain. And that opening is obviously busy closing up, because it's not supposed to be there in the first place. So yes, guys, that is what I wanted to share with you. And also to let you know, guys, that I am back. You can expect vlogs and stuff like that from me. Yeah. And also, yeah, guys, I'm well on my way to recovery. Yo, this flu had me. This flu had me so, so bad. But yeah, I'm back to my normal self now, I think. And also, don't mind my lighting. I will definitely be getting artificial lighting. Um, I love natural lighting, but yeah, with all of the things that we go through on a daily basis, weather changes and stuff like that, I cannot depend fully on um, natural lighting. I have to get uh, woo, the English flew away. I have to get artificial lighting. So once again, guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for visiting my channel. Please do like, subscribe, comment, and hit the notification bell in case of new videos. And also, what's more important, share, guys. Please share, 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 share. Share with your family, share with your friends, and do come back. I love you guys.